Hey, look at this. We're getting all faces, not cartoon characters. Or one of my students always puts his cat in with hanging upside down, which I think is sort of appropriate. But
There's Heather.
hey, Heather.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah.
I said hello from the snowy Rocky Mountains.
Right?
Yeah, isn't that remarkable?
Yeah. Foot and a half
Wow.
of snow. Feels like
End of
January.
days, West.
2024.
Yeah, so how much snow did you get? Did it stick?
Yeah, a foot and a half stuck for 2 days.
Oh, man.
Feels like January.
The skiers are going, oh man, I didn't get my board tuned up yet. What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. Meanwhile, it's 120, in California. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was
my son-
101 in Denver over the weekend, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It went from 97 to 33 were the highs within 24 hours.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son just moved from Grants Pass, Oregon to Springfield because he's in grad school 2 weeks ago, which means they drove, so they just missed the fires and they just missed the snowstorm. And they're like, we're so glad. Towing a trailer across the country through that stuff would have been a misery.
No.
And he would have been on fire duty out there because he was on fire crews, and he's like, whew,
Right.
you know.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of that right now.
Hey, everyone, we're just kind of waiting for people to come in. We're just chatting. The presentation will start soon.
Let's see, do we have anybody who's not on campus? Hey, yeah, Haley, like Colorado, where we've been talking about.
I'm not on campus.
Well,
Me neither.
Yeah.
out of state, I should say.
Yeah. The thriving town of Alton.
That's sort of international.
Well, I think this is most everybody, so we can go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody, to the Ecuador and Galapagos info meeting. I'm Allison Terry. I work in the abroad office, and I am supporting the faculty who are running this program, and so I'm going to turn it over to them to start the show.
Do we want to do a quick intro before we get rolling? Should I just launch into it? Or do you want to go right to the slide program?
Don't we have intros in the slide program or no? Maybe not for
No.
everyone. Maybe we should do that, especially with Heather and Cecily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you do it, Chris?
Okay. Hi, I'm Chris Young. I teach philosophy at the college. I've taken abroads to India, Nepal, Greece, Turkey, and Italy. So far, this will be my first one south of us, and I'm really excited about it. Yeah, and we'll talk more about that as we go.
I'm Scott Eckert. I'm in the biology department, and I have taken abroad to Peru with Cecily, Trinidad with Heather, a bunch of times Trinidad, and Dominica, and I think that's all the abroads. But anyway, and so I'm a critter person, and I am so excited to be going back to the Galapagos and to the Amazon. I have never been to the Amazon before. I've been all over South America, worked in a lot of countries down there, but not the Amazon. So that's exciting for me.
I'm Cecily Lee, and I'm former Spanish professor there at the college. During 15 years there, I took 12 study abroad programs with like more than 200 students, all in Latin America. And I just want to tell you, if you're here and you're thinking about it and abroad, you're doing the best thing you can do in your college career, in my opinion. And whether it's this one or another one, go for it. I'll be a drop-in person, so I'll be with you on campus. First 4 weeks, then coming at the beginning for 2 weeks and at the end for 2 weeks.
And Heather?
And Heather.
Okay. I wasn't sure if Mary Jane, it's so fun to see Mary Jane on here. I was like, that looks like Mary Jane. Oh my gosh, that's Mary Jane. So I thought she was going to introduce herself. I'm Heather Barron, and I don't know if you can tell, but I am over the moon to be the resident counselor for this trip. And I am formerly a resident counselor at the college for Howard House. Any Howard women here? Any? Yay! And I love all the women and all the men too. So I don't have a bias, but that was where I was resident counselor. I was also a student in Howard House, and I got to go to Argentina and Chile on an abroad back in, I'm not gonna say when that happened. And then I did the scenic route through college. So it took me 10 years from start to finish. So I got to go on another abroad and go to the Himalayas, to India, and right along the border of Nepal. So got to go on that abroad as a student. And then got to go to Trinidad twice as a resident counselor with Scott, which was awesome. So got to travel with Scott, have been friends with Chris from AU since 1993. And we've talked about going on abroad together, and spoke with Cecily about dreaming about doing abroad together in South America. So this is a real treat, and it's an honor to see all of you. I'm in Colorado.
Okay, and MJ, introduce yourself, because come on. MJ's just moved up to the college with the abroad office.
I'm Mary Jane Hoff, and I'm one of the program managers for the Study Abroad office. Feels like home because I'm back in the Science Center after I taught at the college for 10 years in the biology department. So this Ecuador Galapagos trip is just dreamy, you guys. This is amazing. And I'm super excited to see all of your faces and the potential of you going on any abroad, like Cecily said.
So Allison, should I just go ahead and go into a little PowerPoint about the trip?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Okay, can I see a thumbs up? We got this, is it up? All right.
Looking good.
Okay. Chris, you're gonna have to jump in with me from time to time, and Cecily do too. But the genesis for this program came because last summer, Chris and I were fortunate to go on a PLL trip to the Galapagos. And it was an amazing trip. The Galapagos, of course, for anybody is an amazing trip, and for biology types, it's doubly so. But we ended up in the island of San Cristobal, and we got off the ship, and we were taking a little tour around the town in San Cristobal, and here was a college campus, and we thought, oh my goodness, could we do an abroad here? And that's what got this whole process going. And so we've been building this up ever since. And
yeah, we ditched the tour. And
we did. We literally
went the tour and ran up to the college to go try to find somebody to talk to.
Yeah, and so we're going to be associated with a local university down there that is actually based in Quito, but they have a field station in the Galapagos, or a little mini university in the Galapagos, and some really cool field stations, which we'll talk about here in a second. And the idea for us is this idea of tying what you know with what you see. And we sort of thought about this in terms, the genesis sort of came about thinking about Darwin. And as a young man, 22-year-old, he sailed around the world, ended up in the Galapagos, and wrote one of the great revolutionary scientific theories of our time. And so we thought, man, we can do something along those lines. How would tie nature and knowledge? And so that's why this is an abroad that's associated with biology, but associated with philosophy and language and culture. And we can mix it all together in Ecuador. Ecuador is a relatively small country, but it provides a fantastic diversity in all in terms of the culture, in the terms of the peoples, and and its history, and then its ecosystems. And so there are three major ecological systems: the Amazonian basin, which is on the eastern side of the Andes Mountains, and as you all think of it as tropically jungly area; the Andes, which are some of the highest mountain ranges in the world, and one of the youngest. It's growing all the time at a few centimeters a year. And then out to the Galapagos, and we get to see a very, very unique habitat out in the Galapagos. So between that and the fact that it was has a wonderful indigenous culture, long history of culture of indigenous peoples, and then a colonial settlement, adds all these different kinds of layers to it. Like I said, it's a relatively small country. It's just a little bit smaller than the state of Nevada, and a population of about 16 million. You can see it sits right on the equator, and that makes this place particularly magic. And so the equator runs right through the northern part of the country. So it's tropically, but it has high elevation, so that gets very, very cold. And so you've got a really interesting mix. In fact, when we look at it from an ecological perspective, you have the huge Amazonian basin rainforest up into the Andes, and these are all different ecotypes that you run on through as you move from west to east in the country. And then the Galapagos are kind of their own thing out there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. In fact, there's a funny story about the Galapagos. It used to be 1950s, 1960s, when you would fly out of Ecuador and want to go to the Galapagos, the pilot would take off, he'd line himself up on a particular bearing, and he would fly west until he was more than halfway, or until he was about halfway. And if he hadn't found the Galapagos by then, he'd turn around and fly back because they couldn't find them otherwise. They are way out there in the middle of no place. And so you got kind of a one-way shot at it. Of course, today with GPS and nav, it's not so much of a problem.
Much easier.
Yeah, much easier. Yeah, so we will fly. We won't boat it out there. The Amazon rainforest is as magic as anybody would imagine it to be. It contains this remarkable diversity of life. 1 hectare of rainforest contains more plant species than all of the species of plant in Europe. The number of fish species in the Amazon River alone exceed all of the number of fish found in the entire Atlantic Ocean. When you think of tropical rainforests, you think of high levels of biological diversity, and we will be seeing some of that. The Andes Mountains, which are the spine of the down South America, those are off to one side, are absolutely remarkable. This is Cecily and I, and a Prince student at 15,000 feet on the Salcantay Pass in Peru, on the Peruvian abroad. So we use this picture for this, but the Andes are a remarkable, remarkable mountain range. The bisection of the Andes between tropical jungle and the western side means that it splits the ecosystems. And so the level of ecological diversity is phenomenal. Ecuador has more bird species than any other country of the world. And they argue with Colombia all the time over which one has more, but Ecuador right now is on top. And so it's a place for looking at biological diversity like no other.
And I'll just say really quick too that those kind of mountain ranges also divide up culture as well. When there's a significant geologic feature like that, it's going to create isolation and different ways of approaching things that will be pretty remarkable to see.
Yeah, and especially when you think about, you have the lowland Amazonian jungle, and then people who live in the Andean region, and then people who live over on the west coast down in the lowlands, and they are culturally very, very different.
Yes.
We will be seeing some cloud forest as well. Cloud forest is where there's so much moisture in the air all the time. It's wet all the time, and it creates another form of biological diversity, but it's at higher elevation. So instead of like down in the Amazon, we were in very, very lowlands, these are upland moist forests, and they're remarkable in their diversity. And then the Galapagos, and what can you say, the Galapagos are so well known around the world as one of these magic places. And we'll be out there with Galapagos tortoises and blue-footed boobies and marine iguanas and these beautiful sunny sandy beaches and this remarkable clear blue water for snorkeling and diving in. It's really a magic place. It lives up to all of the accolades.
And it's completely remote. It's limited to the number of people who can visit it, and actually tourists are only allowed to access like 3% of the actual Galapagos Islands. There's a lot out there. And so when you're out there, when you're traveling around, there are cities and some of the cities that we'll be staying in. But when you're out in the islands, there won't be many other people, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. So we're also going to spend a good bit of time, at least a couple of weeks in Quito, which is the capital up in the highlands. And the University of San Francisco is going to be sort of our headquarters there. And there will be homestays all along the trip, probably up in Quito and probably down in Galapagos. And while we're in Quito, it gives us the wonderful opportunity to reach out from the city itself and visit other things. And so we'll be doing a number of things. This Jambatu is an amphibian conservation center, and we'll probably do some service projects there. This is where we'll also go out into the Andean cloud forest at the Santa Lucia Eco Lodge. And we'll also be pursuing a number of cultural studies in this area by visiting a number of indigenous villages out in the Andes. So there's a number of things that we're going to do based here in Quito. And as I said, we'll visit this cloud forest reserve. It's a research station called the St. Lucia Cloud Forest Research Station, probably located at about 3,000, maybe 4,000 meters. And we'll do projects up there. And then when we're in the Amazon, the trip into the Tupetini Research Station, which is also owned by the university, it's an all-day trip in a on paddlecraft or canoes up the river, and ends up in this eco lodge where we'll be pretty much on our own for a couple of weeks, living amongst this within this research station. So it's real Amazon. This isn't the typical ecotourist stop.
And this will be a little rustic, right? So I mean, you should not expect like fine accommodations. You should expect research station accommodations. People are there to work.
But you always have to remember, researchers aren't any good unless they eat well. So we'll probably have good food. And then we will also be out in the Galapagos. And this is a picture of in the upper right is the picture of the university that will be hosting us. And we'll get to see them all. We'll see the Galapagos tortoises. We'll do a number of projects. If you like to snorkel, this is someplace that we expect to be in the water as much as possible. And then we'll probably do some homestays there and some more language work there as well. So the academics, BNR 245 or BNR 340. The difference is that BNR 245 is for non-biology majors, BNR 340 is for biology majors, and so we're scaling some of the biology coursework accordingly. Chris, you want to talk about philosophy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited about this class. Epistemology and Darwin, it's a topics course. Darwin is a really unique figure, and he's perfect for an intersection between biology and philosophy. He is writing and working at a time where things are really shifting from two different ways of approaching knowledge, or how one can say that they're learned. It used to be a more scholastic approach, which was all about knowing the canon, like what did Aristotle say? I need to understand Aristotle completely, and if I can represent that as accurately as possible, then I can say that I am educated. But around the time that Darwin and obviously some years before him too, people are starting to recognize, no, wait, I need to be able to observe the world around me and learn from that. And so we start moving into a natural science direction. And Darwin's really kind of tipping the scale towards the natural science direction and moving us away from scholasticism, which I actually think was a really good thing. But it's the way that he did it too. He didn't have a real strict process at first. He just was watching. He was observing things. He was taking note of it, and he kept a good journal. And that's something that I'm going to really push on this abroad, that we're going to be keeping journals. We're going to be watching. We're going to be drawing what we see. We're going to be writing about what we see. And we're going to be speculating about what we see. And so this class is going to look at that intersection between natural sciences and then epistemology, which is the study of how we know. So how do I know that something counts as knowledge? What are the processes that I go through to justify me saying that I know this? And Darwin through his work presented a pretty clear way that can happen. And so we're going to look at the connection between the two, and so there's going to be a lot of overlap with the biology class and with the culture class, using the journal and the country studies class is what I should say. So yeah.
It's such a good mix with the sciences, because one of the foundational elements of all science is observation. The ability to observe, identify, and then take those observations and address them experimentally or express them with data is super, super important. So that's why the philosophy and biology really, really mix. And when we're in all of these locations, you guys will be looking and observing and seeing what's there and identifying what's there, and we'll be gathering that information. One of the things that really excites me is the capacity to go out and look out at an ecosystem and say, oh, I know that plant, I know that plant, I know that bird, I therefore know where I am. I know what kind of an ecosystem I'm in. And so we'll be doing quite a lot of that. And that's why this idea of knowing and philosophy, the philosophical aspects of knowing and then actually making those observations tie together so well.
And there's a really great connection with culture as well. If we look at some of the themes of ways of knowing, we think about that in cultural terms. We get multiple perspectives to see how others think about knowing, being, their value systems. If you think about diversity, ecologically, we also have cultural diversity, adaptation. You'll be adapting, cultural adaptation, which is also a biological theme. Evolution. Cultures are never static. They're always evolving and changing. And we're gonna focus a lot on the contemporary society too. We'll be learning history, government, education, and so forth, but also what is contemporary Ecuadorian identity about. There's the, pardon my voice, there's the focus on place, which I know both of you are very interested in, and which is central to cultural identity, right? The place you're from, the land your ancestors have lived on for generations. And then skill-wise, observation is so important when you're entering another culture. You really need to be keenly observing so that you can learn how to navigate and how to behave appropriately and with sensitivity. And so you really can connect with people and have a much richer experience in that way. And language, of course, is what enables you to do that. So as you can see, we've got 4 levels. So we're trying to welcome the world, make it possible for anybody to come. And some of you may have the idea of completing your gen ed requirement on the abroad, which you absolutely can do. You might not recognize the number, but 136 is the equivalent of 105 or 110. So as long as you do 104 before, like this semester, and you can still join if you need to, or next semester, then you could complete the requirement on the abroad. For a few people who didn't take any Spanish in high school, you would also need the 2-hour 100 course. So if you were trying to complete, you would need to be taking 100 now. And again, you can still join if you think you might want to do that. And then these courses, we've got courses for majors and, you know, for intermediate students too. On the country studies, the 3 of us are teaching the course. We're team teaching. And my special kind of focus is, we talked a little about communication through the language, is the other competence besides communicative is intercultural. And I've referred to that in some ways, but that's going to be what we're going to be working on quite a bit, so that you're examining your own belief systems initially, and then you're really able to notice differences, commonalities, sometimes to question what you've just grown up with and accepted as normal. Sometimes maybe adopt something from a culture you're visiting, for example. And that will allow you really to be just to widen your horizons and to just appreciate this enormous cultural diversity and value it in our world.
And one of the most important things I can say is about any of the abroads that you would take at Principia is that you're learning at a level that's far beyond tourism. You are the more you know about a particular place, the more you'll love it, and the more compassionate you become overall. The more you can understand another culture and perspective, it actually helps you understand your own culture and perspective better. It's just so important to like dive in below the surface. And we'll be doing that not just with snorkeling, but also with cultures.
Right.
I want to just reiterate something that Cecily mentioned that is kind of important, and that is that if you do want to complete your GE2L, your language requirement while you're there, and you did not have Spanish in high school, and you don't have any Spanish language training, you really should be signing up for Spanish 100 right now and 104 in the spring. And that's kind of an important distinction. And as Cecily said, there's still room in the Spanish 100 class now. So if you feel like this is something you want to pursue and you don't have the language, you need to get into 100 now. Okay. Allison, you want to run through this?
Sure. So it's really exciting to hear about all the academics and see the fun places that you're going to get to go, and learn more about like the great vision that this program has. And so I get to share a little bit of the nuts and bolts in how you can get signed up for this. And so couple things just to think about. If you don't have a passport yet, you might want to start looking at getting one. And for those of you who do have passports, you want to double check that they're valid for at least 6 months upon your return from Ecuador. And so that's going to probably be about July 2022 And then for international students, we might need to get you guys a visa, but the study abroad office will help you do that. Currently, US citizens don't need visas to go to Ecuador. The cost of the program is, it's really great how Principia does our study abroads, because for a full semester abroad, which this program is, you're paying whatever you'd be paying to be on campus. So that's like the normal tuition, room and board. And then the only additional parts that you need to pay for is there's a $500 fee, and then you have to pay for your airfare. And airfare, if it costs more than $1,500, the abroad office will help you cover the extra cost if it's very expensive to fly to Ecuador. But we'll probably look at getting into group flights and helping you guys with that. So hopefully we'll get something that costs less than that. But just so you know, there is a guarantee that if it costs more, we will help you. And so the application process, we are changing that a little bit this semester. And so what's not changing is the due date. So September 23rd, which is Wednesday of week 4, by 5 p.m., your application, which will include signatures from your resident counselor and your academic advisor, are due to the study abroad office. And so I really am encouraging you guys to start these now, because you have like 2 more weeks, less than 2 weeks before applications will be due, and it includes essay questions. So you don't want to wait till the last minute to do those. And then I'm just gonna, Scott, I'm gonna share my screen.
Sure, I'll stop sharing so
Okay.
you can take it over.
Because I just want to show you guys what the application looks like, since it is new. And so we're doing it online. So it's all based on Google Forms. And so after this meeting, I'll send you guys a follow-up email that will include all this information. But essentially, when you come to the application, this is the first page that you're going to see. And then there's like 10 sections after this that's collecting all your information and the essay questions. And it's asking you to sign off that you are meeting with your RC and your academic advisor. And so there'll be these instructions. And the important thing to know is that your RC and your academic advisor have a separate form to sign that is like their signature page. And so it's your job to send an email to your RC and your academic advisor with the link to their forms. And so it's pretty straightforward. You would just send them these links, and then they would sign off that they have met with you. And it's important to know that when you fill these out, you need to be using your Principia email, just because of the way the Google form is set up to like authenticate your application. You need to be using your Principia email address for it to work. And then if you're someone like me who wants to know like all the questions before you fill it out, because you have to complete like each section before you move to the new one, and you want to know what all the questions are going to be, if you go to the Study Abroad website, which is our current and upcoming programs, and you scroll down under Ecuador and the Galapagos, you'll find an info sheet and the application. And so the info sheet has a lot of the same information that Scott and Chris and Cecily have shared with you, but it also has the application in like one form, so you can see all the information that's going to be asked. You can see that it asks for a personal reference and a group learning reference, your academic advisor and resident counselor signatures, and then there's additional questions and the essay questions, which will be here on page 3. So if you want to think about your essay questions ahead of time so that you don't get to the Google form and, you know, want to like check spelling or make sure that what you're saying makes sense, you can write up your questions ahead of time. And so all that is included in this online application. And remember, like I said, the application and the 2 signature forms are due by 5 p.m. Wednesday of week 4, which is September 23rd. And then after you turn in your applications, sorry, my cat is very excited about this experience for you guys as well. You'll sign up to do an interview with the faculty and the RC, and we'll have a kind of a sign up sheet for you guys to be able to do that. And so interviews will happen week 5 to week 7. And then at the end of week 8 is when we send out letters to let everybody know who's been selected for the programs. So that's kind of just the timing for you guys. Does anybody have any questions about that?
There's no guarantees that the price will be anywhere close to the same, but when we went down to Quito a couple of years ago, and that's what you would pay for is a round trip to Quito, it was under $1,000 for the ticket.
Yeah, the summer.
No guarantee it'll be that much again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Scott, I'm not sure what else was on your part of the presentation, but.
Nope, you were it. That was it.
All
That
right.
was back down to questions. So
Yeah,
whatever anybody's got, fire away.
Yeah, Emmett.
If we have 2 advisors, do we need them both to sign off on form?
Yep. That's a good question. Yes, please.
Okay, thanks.
How many people are you expecting to take?
We were just having that conversation.
Yeah, it's not set in stone, but you know, probably 16 to 18 is a good bet. Oh, let's see.
Emil, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, can advisors sign the form like online if they're not on campus?
Yeah. Yes. Which is, yeah, it makes it, you could send that form to anybody no matter where they are and they could sign it. Yeah. And then it's just part of my other encouragement in getting the application done early in case there's any technological glitches. Yes, I know. Of just, it's okay. Just making sure that things are signed and turned in on time. I would really encourage you all to do it early. And this is Myrtle, and she's feeling left out.
Marlena, did you have something?
Yes, I did. Thank you so much, Chris. Is this for all grades?
Yeah. You mean all, whatever year you are in school?
Yeah, whatever year. Because I will be pushing back graduation date in order to go on this. And I, because of scheduling issues, I've never been able to go on an abroad, and it's just like my dreams go. So I think it's worth pushing back graduation. And I actually don't need any of these courses either, except for probably Spanish. Advice?
So yeah, it should be open. I don't know. Allison can jump in if she disagrees with me, but I would just be very careful about how you phrase this if you are petitioning to extend your study. So when you petition to extend your study, going on an abroad has not counted as a reason in the past, but needing to complete your Spanish, your GE2L, is absolutely a good reason that will be accepted. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's exactly. Actually, I need a couple more courses just because of transferring issues. So I actually would be taking another semester also filled with courses as well.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah. But like Chris said, you just want to phrase everything in a way that's like, I'm extending because I need to meet XYZ requirements.
Yeah.
I have a question for Chris. So will the philosophy class not count as a GEH?
Okay, so I am not allowed to say that it'll count as a GEH, but I'll just say this, that before you register for classes this semester, the proposal should have gone through, and I am hopeful that it will count as a GEH, but I don't know that. I can't say it. I cannot guarantee it. They can reject it, and it's well within their rights to reject it. So if they do, then it just won't count. But as of right now, I would say there's a good chance that it will. There's no guarantees, if that makes sense.
He has applied to have it listed as a GEH, but like I said, it has to be approved by the curriculum committee.
Haley?
On that note, Scott, does the BNR 340 count for an advanced ecology course?
Yes, I think it'll count for an advanced ecology course.
I don't have to take like wetland or something.
No, it should count as a because we'll meet the learning objectives for that course. It's a fairly high level ecological course, so yeah, absolutely. 245 would not count for something like, well, 245 is a GESL, but you don't care about that. You're just looking for that advanced ecology. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other burning questions?
Yeah.
Anybody here ever been to the Amazon? No? Cecily has. Yeah, of course. There we go. Cecily's been everywhere. How about Galapagos? Anybody here been to Galapagos? Come on, Alana, put your hand up. There you are.
Nice.
I wish that I went when I was older so I actually remembered it, but there are a few images that I would like to definitely revisit.
There you go. Anybody here been to South America? Oh, we got some South American people. Good.
Haley,
I like South America.
Haley, I'm just making sure that you weren't trying to talk to us. I just want to make sure. Okay, good. No, it's fine. You're fine. You could be talking to someone else. I just want to make sure you weren't trying to talk with the mute. Okay. I gotcha.
Oh, she was talking to Haley.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Haley was
Okay.
talking
The
to
Haley thing here. Yeah, I get
Doing
that
commentary on your guys'
one. Yeah.
Can I ask Diego, are you a native Spanish speaker?
Yes.
Awesome. I'd love to have you on.
How many people speak Spanish relatively well?
Oh, that just killed it for him. Nobody wants to admit that. I won't even admit to speaking English well.
Yeah, I don't. Camille?
I have a question for Cecily. So you mentioned that the Spanish courses, that the one just above the 105 or 104 course, you mentioned that that one was equal to, I think, 105. Can you give me the equivalent of the intermediate and the advanced level Spanish courses, if there is
Well,
one?
really, in the measuring system, there are 3 levels for each, for novice, intermediate, and advanced. So when I say intermediate, it's 236, so it's 200 level classes. So you could put that towards a minor, towards a major. If you're doing global studies, you could count that towards your 200 level language classes. And then 336 is close to advanced. Are you considering a major or minor?
Yeah, I have a bunch of the credits already. I'm just wondering what they were the equivalent of, because you mentioned one of the lower level ones, and so I was just
right. So they're designed for and abroad, but you can substitute them. So same thing actually with the country studies course. In the Spanish major, you're allowed 1 course in English, and you can count the country studies course toward that. Or in a minor, if you do a Hispanic studies minor, you can count it toward that. If you want to know more, you can email me and I'll tell you more. Okay?
Thank you.
actually, Cecily's comment made me realize something really quickly. The same is true also for a philosophy major. The country studies could count as one of the courses that are required in the philosophy major. We have a non-Western requirement, just so you know. And then also it made me realize that, especially because I see William, that if, say that this class does get a GEH, if you have taken Intro to Philosophy or Philosophy in Film or Intro to Ethics and got the GEH through that, this won't count as your second GEH. It'll have to be from another discipline, right? So just know that. So it'll just be an elective credit or towards the major or minor. Just plugging away.
Emma.
Just real quick, so you started to mention flights a little bit. So are we planning on booking the flights all together once the abroad gets chosen, or how are the flights officially gonna work?
That's a good question. So I believe that the way the program is going to work is that you guys will all fly to Ecuador together, and then the program will end in country, so in Ecuador. So you will have the freedom to travel more after that or come directly back. And so we'll probably do some sort of hybrid group flight and then your own flight, but we can help you with those arrangements. So we'll probably do like a group flight through a travel agent that will allow you to have a different return leg if you wanted to travel more.
As of right now, the program is looking like it's going to be somewhere between 9 to 10 weeks in country.
Yeah, 4 weeks here, más o menos, and 9 to 10 in country. And most, well, not most, but many students stay on and travel after. You know, you're already there, you might, and you're comfortable there, you might as well go see it. And I know with Cecily and I in our last Peru abroad, a number of students stayed. Two of my students stayed and went to work on a project on whale sharks up in the northern part of Peru. And there's all kinds of fun things you can do after you've sort of gotten acclimated and comfortable in country that you can tie to. So, and the nice thing about this trip is that it finishes off, you know, over the Christmas break. You've got that time to travel.
Thanks.
I know that with COVID and everything, everyone is taking everything, you know, day by day, week by week, and basing it off of current events. And you know, I don't know. I'm just wondering if you have any kind of like second plan or any kind of preconceived notion about what you think is going to happen. Like if there's a second, you know, spike, or do you think that we will be allowed out of country? You know, if worst comes to worst, is this going to be canceled? You know.
Yeah, that almost requires a crystal ball. I mean, I hear you. It's a real concern. I'm hopeful that this is far enough out that we will not have to worry about that. And you know, that's what I am working on metaphysically all the time to kind of get us to that point. I'm hoping that that's what will happen. So that by that time everything will be solved. But there is always the potential that you know, if there's the abroad office uses a very rigorous safety protocol measures. They have insurance companies that do in-depth reports. We're tapped in with the State Department. So it just depends if there's a travel advisory, if it reaches a certain level, you don't go or you come back. I can speak to that as someone who was in Nepal and had to come back when it hit that level, and they made that call. And so, yeah, it's just kind of out there. I'm very hopeful though, and optimistic that this abroad will go.
We have a trip, Chris and I have a trip scheduled down there back to Galapagos in July. And then we were going to scout this trip at that time. We were going to do it last summer. We couldn't do it last summer. So we're scheduled for this summer. So we're really hoping, you know, by July, everything's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I love seeing all your faces on Zoom, but it'd be nice if it was in person too.
Yeah. I was just going to say, since Chris just mentioned metaphysics, we talked about the courses and the program, but I really want to say in my experience, an abroad is also an important spiritual journey, whatever that means to people, but it kind of takes you away from your normal day-to-day, and a lot of people really find it a time to be reflective about, you know, your life and your course and what's important to you. So besides all the rich content and experiences, that's another aspect to just appreciate about it, I think.
It's a wonderful opportunity to work with a very close group of what will become your friends in supporting each other, and metaphysically as well as physically. We put together abroad teams largely based on what we think will be a really, really supportive group, and that's really important to us in selection. And your ability to support each other metaphysically is extremely important, and we really want to see that. And it just creates magnificent opportunities for growth and development of your own metaphysical skills.
I was going to throw in that I think that's one of the neatest parts of the abroad that I've been a part of, is that you set out your plan, even if there isn't a pandemic, you set out your plan, and then your adventure is how it actually goes. And it's all the things that show up. It's the community pieces we have to work through together, the curveballs we get, the trains that don't show up, the boats that we miss, you know, those sorts of things that really make it that digging into those deeper parts of ourselves and really learning who you are, and how cool to follow that. That's kind of Darwin's process, right? That there was a certain plan, then he gets onto a ship he didn't even know he was going to be able to get onto, and history changes, you know. Think about him not being on that ship. So each of us has that adventure with whatever abroad we end up on, you know, whether that's in college or in life, and that's just such a cool opportunity for that.
Yeah, regardless of what we plan, the one thing I know that I can guarantee is that something will change.
And usually it leads to really interesting opportunities that you didn't know you were going to get.
Any other questions? Well, I really hope to see applications from every one of you. There will be, after the applications come in, we'll set up schedule and do interviews. It will be online. It will be Zoom meetings for our interviews. So if you put in an application, you should be expecting some sort of schedule. I'm sure Allison will be in contact with you.
Yes. We will get that set up. And like I said, tomorrow I'll send you guys a follow-up email with links to all the information that we shared. And if you have any questions between now and when the applications are due, or even after that, any one of us would be happy to answer your questions. So if we end the call and you're like, oh no, I meant to ask this, please follow up.
Okay, we can sign off, everybody. It's good to see you all. Some of you I haven't seen for a long time.
Yeah. Hey,